William Jackson Palmer and his fantastic journey to the Wild West, Colorado Springs. My name is William Jackson Palmer, and I will explain brief details about my life and adventures in Colorado Springs. I was 35 years old when I first came to the Springs. My overall goal was to build railroads and make transportation easier for folks in town. In Kansas, I used to build tons of railroads where I lived. Now, I want to extend that to build railroads in Colorado Springs. Architecture is what I'm best at. When I first came to town, everything was so different and unique. The population here was so diverse and original that I felt as if I really did belong here. The buildings were so gorgeous and very unique, like the Broadmoor. Another beautiful place that lives in the Springs is known as Manitou, or Manitou Springs. The Ehlers Hotel is nearby Pikes Peak and the Garden of the Gods, which made the city's location a natural choice. I've always thrived for resorts in a good quality town where people could visit the uniqueness behind it. The city I lived in blew me away to newer places, and it was pretty flat land. That way, I can build railroads. I heard that mining was a huge part of Colorado Springs as well. People went crazy for the gold and even exchanged some of it for bigger riches. Bob Womack, an old cowboy, discovered Cripple Creek's gold in 1890. Cripple Creek visitors find it hard to imagine how the world's greatest gold camp looked in 1900s when it had a population of 50,000 and was on its way to producing gold worth $700 million. Pikes Peak is one of the 14ers. It's clear to the citizens of Colorado which mountain sticks up the most. Pikes Peak is a part of the Rocky Mountains, which stretches all along the United States, south to north. It was also named after Zebulon Pike, who was an early explorer. The Pikes Peak or bus sign was very popular. The rush to Pikes Peak started in January 1859 when prospector George Jackson found gold near present-day Idaho Springs. The financial crash of 1857 had left many in the East and Midwest without jobs, so prospectors and wannabes flocked to the Rockies, heralding Pikes Peak or bust. Julia Archibald Holmes was in fact the first woman that we know of to climb the top of Pikes Peak. She also climbed the other 14ers. She was quite astonished. The most shattering event in the first century of Colorado Springs was the fire of October 1st, 1898, and destroyed the first Antlers Hotel and threatened a large proportion of the downtown area. After World War I, all southern trains came into the Denver and Rio Grande Depot in Sierra Madre Street, while northbound trains stopped at the Santa Fe station on East Pikes Peak Avenue. I came up with the idea of making the Denver and Rio Grande Depot to make traveling easier. Plus, I'm really into architecture and building new products. The Denver and Rio Grande was not the only narrow gauge to railroad to cross the Rocky Mountains, but it soon became the most successful. When the D&RD reached Gunnison at August 1881, it was greeted with cheers. My men and I, however, were already looking ahead. Some people described it as the roughest, most hilly, most cut-up they have ever seen. My railroad and I were committed to find a way through. Turns out I was not satisfied with the 15 miles of the railroad through the Black Canyon. I wanted the Denver and Rio Grande to travel the entire 53-mile length and depth of the canyon. But my surveyors, who under the leadership of Brian Bryant endured an incredibly hazardous exploration through the lower, steeper, and narrow canyon in 1881, convinced me that 15 miles of railroad through the Black Canyon was quite enough. I was quite devastated, but thankfully it all worked out in the end. I built my dream home for my wife Mary and my children. Glen Eyrie is a 67-room English-style castle built by me. Hopefully, my name will always live on in Colorado Springs.